She stares at that wedding photo like it is the last save point before a boss battle. She is literally begging her parents for forgiveness because the level of chaos she is about to drop on this plot is going to be legendary. Cecilia Sylvie just wanted a quiet life, you know, without the whole doom flag hanging over her head. So, what is the logical solution? Obviously, you grab a wig, tape down the assets, and fully commit to the bit. She hits the gender bender switch and boom, meet Cecil. The background flowers are blooming automatically because anime logic demands it. The girls are losing their minds, screaming like they just saw a pop star. So much for staying under the radar, she is basically a walking spotlight now. Let's rewind the tape. She is 5 years old, absolutely demolishing a buffet of expensive cakes. Then, glitch. The realization hits her mid-chew. She freezes. Her brain is buffering. The maid rushes in, panic in her eyes. Cecilia zips her lip. Astai, Malk, Name, Nai, Mame, Twan. That's Graspiel. Bikminal, eyes the no. Sid, each one well. They will definitely lock her in a padded room. Better to play dumb. System overload. She crashes hard. For a week, she is fighting a fever, sweating buckets while her mom loses her mind by the bedside. It is pure chaos. She wakes up with the patch notes downloaded. This is not the real world. It is Shrine Maiden Princess Part 3, and she is the designated villainess. Her fate? Deleted. The math finally maths. The fake smiles, the weird memories, and the desperate craving for instant ramen that does not exist in this timeline. It all makes sense now. She realizes she was an absolute menace. Her parents simped for her so hard she grew up thinking the world revolved around her tantrums. Classic spoiled brat syndrome. New challenger approaching. The family adopts a distant relative named Gilbert.
Look at this sad little dude. He looks like he has not slept in a decade.
He is not just an orphan. He is a prime capture target, a walking dating sim event waiting to happen. The potential for drama is off the charts. In the original script, Cecilia bullies him into the ground. But looking at the real thing, he is just a gloomy kid with sad wet cat energy. Look at those eyes. She tries to summon her inner villain, but her brain throws an error. Error! 404! Malice not found. She literally cannot roast this face. It is illegal. She vows to change her ways, but a month later, she gets dragged to the castle and runs straight into the final boss, Prince Oscar, the guy she is supposed to marry in 2 years. Check the pose. He knows he is the main character. The arrogance is radiating off him. Just seeing him triggers a forced cutscene, a flash forward of her drowning in a lake. The despair hits her like a freight train. It is cold, dark, and terrifying. If she follows the canon timeline, she does not get a redemption arc. She gets a bad ending. Straight to the lobby. Game over. She checks the stats. She gets deleted at 17. That gives her 12 years to hack the mainframe and change the script. She stands on the balcony and drops the ultimate big brain play. If being a girl gets her game ended, she is just going to change classes. Time to become a boy. Fast forward 12 years and the master plan is officially live at Vruhel Academy. Rumor has it there is a new prince on campus. Golden hair, sapphire eyes, and a face card that absolutely never declines. He glides through the hallway like a white rose, silent, deadly, and beautiful. But it is not a school anime without some drama, so naturally some bullies shove a girl straight into the foot traffic. She trips and braces for impact, fully expecting to eat the floor. But Cecil hits the frame-perfect counter. He catches her with a seamless bridal carry and drops the My Lady line. Riz level 1000. The crowd goes absolutely feral. Meet Cecil Admina, 17 years old. But here is the kicker. That is actually Cecilia. She successfully cross-dressed to avoid getting sent to the lobby, but she made her disguise way too hot. Now she has to sprint just to outrun the army of simps. They crashed into the academy greenhouse, lungs burning as they tried to catch their breath. Cecilia immediately started crying about how she just wanted a quiet life, playing the victim card hard. But her brother? He was not buying a single second of that performance. Gilbert rubbed his temples, looked her dead in the eye, and delivered a critical hit. He told her straight up that this chaos was happening for one reason. She is a total idiot. That is absolute emotional damage. See, in the original game script, Gilbert was supposed to be a dark and gloomy edgelord. But since Cecilia actually treated him like a human being, he evolved into a handsome smartmouth instead. He immediately called her out for asking if he was okay. He claimed that line was way too smooth for a guy. Cecilia panicked. Her brain went into overdrive, realizing she needed to dial up the toxic masculinity to keep her cover intact. This girl had 18 years of experience studying virtual men. She knew exactly what the ladies wanted because she used to be one. In her past life, she was a total grinder. She worked fast food shifts just to buy more dating sims and spent every holiday rotting in bed with her console. You have to respect the hustle. Her obsession was a game called the Shrine Maiden Princess. In that world, the maiden is basically a god who bosses around the king. It is the ultimate power trip. But here's the glitch. The villainess, Cecilia, gets deleted in every single ending. It does not matter what route you pick. She is guaranteed to get sent to the lobby. So she came up with a galaxy brain play. Since guys cannot be shrine maidens, she just needs to become a dude to dodge the bad ending. She started prepping years in advance. She faked being sick to avoid high society and stacked up cash like a doomsday prepper. She even crafted a wig from her own hair to sell the look. But she hit one massive bouncy problem. Her chest was way too stacked to flatten down. The struggle is real. Money can't fix a divine curse, so she recruited her little brother Gil. She dropped the whole "I reincarnated into an otome" game lore dump on him. Instead of calling a therapist or checking her temperature, he just sat there and asked for the mission objectives. That is some ride or die energy. But then he hits her with a logic bomb. He points out that shrine maidens are symbols of pure innocence. He looks at his sister, analyzes her chaotic vibe, and says even if the laws of physics inverted, nobody is confusing her for a saint. Emotional damage. She asks if he is actively trying to hurt her feelings. He replies with a straight face. He loves her, but she simply lacks the holy maiden vibe. She screams at the disrespect, the audacity of this kid. She admits she hopes he is right. But then she drops the nuke. She pulls her collar down to show him the evidence. A glowing rose mark appeared on her chest last night. That is not a rash. It is the undeniable receipt that the gods have drafted her as a candidate. She has been officially conscripted by destiny. She starts spiraling. The game's actual heroine, Leanne, transfers today. She is supposed to have a matching snowflake mark. The timeline is syncing up for disaster and the plot is thickening way too fast. Panic mode engaged. She launches a full-body tackle at Gil, screaming for him to save her peaceful future. He tries to peel her off like a sticky bandage, yelling that he will do it just to stop the cringe. Gil peels her off his shirt like a cheap sticky note that lost its adhesive. He lets out a sigh deep enough to deflate a tire, realizing she still has the emotional maturity of a toddler on a sugar crash. But she snaps him back to reality fast. Leanne is already in his class, and being late isn't just detention, it is a one-way ticket to Bad End City. He needs to move. The universe immediately intervenes because of course it does. The PA system screeches to life with that ear-piercing feedback whine, ordering every single student to the lecture hall immediately. No exceptions allowed. Over in the greenhouse, they sense the plot shifting gears. Gil runs the numbers in his head and decides the stealth mission is a total bust. Hiding behind some ferns will not save them anymore, so they stand up to face the music. Huge mistake. They absolutely failed their perception check. Leanne is lurking in the foliage, watching them with eyes that look a little too hungry. She clutches her wrist, digging her nails into her skin until it almost draws ketchup, while a twisted yandere grin spreads across her face. She finally found her Gilbert. That is absolute menace energy right there. First up, meet Leanne Lazaroa. She is the designated heroine of this dating sim, and right now, she is vibrating with so much excitement she might actually phase through the floor. The auditorium is packed tighter than a rush hour train because the king's messenger just dropped a bombshell. It is time to pick the next shrine maiden using the legendary Star Orb. In the back row, Cecilia is fighting for her life against pure boredom. This speech is dragging on like an unskippable 15-second ad, and she is analyzing every micro-expression on stage, suspecting there is a hidden reason for the delay. The priest drones on about candidates, but then the attendants march in with the goods. Cecilia's eyes lock onto the movement instantly, her boredom evaporating the second the loot box appears. They unveil the so-called treasures. To the untrained eye, they look like fancy bracelets, but make no mistake, that is straight-up ammunition for the coming war. The system is a straight-up popularity contest. The star orb picks the girls, and the knights get chosen by the spirits living inside the jewelry. We are talking about haunted accessories here, people. Standard anime logic. Here is how the game is played. A knight hands his bracelet to a girl. It is not just a gift, it is basically a marriage proposal with extra steps. It is a vote-collecting battle royale. Whoever hoards the most jewelry wins the crown and gets to pick a holy knight to be her lover. Nothing says romance like a democratic election fueled by magical items. Cecilia runs the mental calculus. If she plays the game as herself, she triggers every death flag in the book and gets sent to the lobby before the tutorial is even over. So she commits to the cross-dressing strat. If she stays as Cecil, she literally cannot be a candidate. 0 votes means Leanne wins by default and our main character survives. That is a big brain play right there. The snooze fest ceremony goes from 0 to 100 real quick. The artifacts detonate like flashbangs, blinding everyone and sending the crowd into full-blown panic mode. A scream tears through the hall. One student goes feral and tackles another, pinning them to the floor while black smoke pours off their skin. Cecilia's internal alarm bells start ringing because she knows exactly what this nightmare fuel is. It is a corruption event. Think of it like a demon virus that feeds on bad vibes and turns people into smoke monsters. The Shrine Maiden's barrier is failing hard, so now we are dealing with a straight-up zombie apocalypse scenario inside the school. The NPCs are frozen in terror, useless as always. Cecil gets pinned down by the beast, struggling against a grip that feels like iron. Out of nowhere, a hero rushes in and absolutely trucks the attacker with a linebacker tackle. We are talking maximum impact, but touching the corruption is a bad move. His hand starts smoking from the burn, and he hits the tiles hard, totally winded from the recoil. The enemy pops back up, looking absolutely feral. Cecilia is shaking in her boots. Seeing this in 4G resolution is way scarier than the pixelated game version. She has to reboot her brain immediately. She frantically scrolls through her mental wiki for the win condition. Then, it clicks. She weaves under a lethal haymaker that would have sent her to the lobby. The rule is simple. Find the cursed mark on the body and touch it to purge the virus. She grabs the guy, desperately patting him down to find the spot before he decides to game end her right there. She has been grinding for 12 years for this exact moment, and she brought the cavalry. Hans charges in like a runaway freight train. He delivers a massive kick right to the chest, sending the corrupted student flying across the room. You can practically feel the ribs cracking from here. Cecilia spots the glowing mark on the arm. She slams her hand down with surgical precision. Contact. The corruption purges in a nasty cloud of smoke. They both hit the floor, totally out of stamina. Her ally rushes in, terrified out of his mind. He starts lecturing her through ugly tears, barely keeping her secret identity intact in front of the crowd. The courtyard went quiet enough to hear a pin drop. Cecilia felt the air get heavy. She thought, oh no, did I just break the game script? Her stomach did a backflip. She curled up, trembling like a leaf in a hurricane. Her gamer brain kicked in. She knew this scene. It was the tutorial battle, the game's way of saying, fight or get sent to the lobby. Hold up, who invited the boy band? Okay, confession time. I mashed the skip button on the prologue because reading is for nerds. But let's break down the squad. First up is Dante, leaning there like he is posing for a magazine cover. Then Oscar, the crown prince rocking that gravity-defying protagonist hair. And Jade, the shady merchant who definitely charges 500% markup on health potions. Back to the main event. Cecilia is sweating enough to fill a pool. She realized she just solo cleared the corruption, a move that is strictly reserved for the main character. She thought, I am so cooked. She was cornered with 0 exit strategy. Absolute checkmate. Then Leanne steps up and drops the hammer, asking the one question that Cecilia's brain could not process. Before she could stutter out a lie, Hans slides into the frame like a smooth operator. He leans in close, whispering sweet nothings while slipping a secret weapon into her hand. He told her to go crazy. She looked down at the item. It was Gil's treasure. A tactical leg strap. because in anime logic, more accessories equal more power. Meanwhile, the priest was yapping about honor and duty. Cecil was not having any of it. He grabbed his partner and yanked him sideways, completely ignoring the NPC dialogue. The crowd went feral. His fan club started squealing like they just saw their favorite idol group. Leanne stood there, watching the chaos and calculating the political fallout. The gears in Cecilia's head finally started turning. It clicked. The prince and his entourage just got promoted to knighthood. She stared at her wrist, eyes wide. If Gil covered for her, then this bracelet was not just bling. It was the legendary knight's treasure. The realization hit her like a freight train. She turned away, clutching her head as the sheer absurdity of the situation crashed down on her. And she let out a scream so loud it probably shattered windows in the next zip code. Leanne's brain didn't just short-circuit, it blue-screened. The realization hit her harder than a semi-truck on the highway. That flower mark on her hand wasn't some cheap press-on tattoo from a bubblegum wrapper. It was the receipt, the absolute proof that she was the chosen saint. Before she could even start hyperventilating, the main cast rolled up. Jade Benjamin slid into the frame with a wink, auditioning hard for the role of loyal knight. Dr. Mordred, on the other hand, had zero chill. The guy was practically foaming at the mouth, desperate to go purify some disturbances like a man obsessed with cleaning supplies. Then Crown Prince Oscar stepped up, looking like a bronze-tier player begging for a carry. Leanne stood there frozen, buffering, trying to process the sheer audacity of this request. She went from living in a shelter to a baron's daughter, and now she is a saint? Talk about power creep. The writers are really rushing this arc. Oscar didn't ask nicely. He got right in her personal space and screamed, demanding she toggle her hacks on immediately. She swallowed the lump in her throat. There was no log out button, no pause menu. She was stuck in the server. She spun around on her heel and accepted the quest with maximum anime protagonist energy. Normally, this is the part where the tutorial ends, the confetti pops and everyone gets a participation trophy. But the plot twist was loading. A chaotic scream erupted from the greenhouse, signaling that the difficulty setting just got cranked up to nightmare mode. Cecilia enters a full-blown mental breakdown state. She is literally screaming at the ceiling, absolutely roasting her past self for being the type of lazy gamer who mashes the skip button during tutorials. While she is busy hydrating the desk with her tears, Gilberto looks at her with absolute zero sympathy. He just tells her to shovel food into her face or she will be late. Talk about priorities. She tries to break down the math for him. One vote means getting drafted as the saint. Being the saint means getting jumped by bandits. And that equals the entire kingdom getting deleted. Gil is not buying what she is selling. He hits her with the nastiest side-eye, probably convinced she is hallucinating the danger like a lunatic. That is when the light bulb finally flickers on inside her head. She realizes she forgot to actually give him the context. He starts spiraling, wondering if returning the treasure was a tactical error. Cecilia cuts him off instantly because that move was a literal lifesaver. Here is the nightmare logic. If he had not returned it, the guards would have patted her down and realized she is actually a girl. That triggers the saint flag, and the only ending to that route is getting permanently game ended. So Gil is technically the MVP here, but she still wants to kick herself for button mashing through the game's prologue like a rookie. Gilberto runs the numbers and realizes the math isn't mathing. There were supposed to be 3 candidates, but after the king's inspection, only Leanne made the cut. He asks about the missing girl, but the trail is colder than a disconnected server. Cecilia drops the bomb with zero hesitation. That 3rd candidate isn't just missing, she is likely already deleted from the server. Leanne saw the receipts years ago. A victim with an azalea mark got game ended, proving there is a predator hunting them down like it is ranked matchmaking. Enter the candidate killer. Cecilia runs the simulation in her head and sees 2 nightmare scenarios. Route A is the conviction ending, where she gets framed and sent to the lobby. Route B is even worse. A shadow figure catches her lacking in the mountains. Total horror movie vibes with zero survival chance. In the original game, the killer goes on a rampage, and Cecilia takes the fall for it. Talk about a rigged game. But Gilberto spots a glitch in the matrix. He checked the news, and there is absolutely zero report of anyone getting deleted. The timeline has changed. He realizes she kept this life or lobby intel secret and absolutely snaps. The man loses his cool completely and screams in her face for being reckless. His composure shatters like glass. Cecilia freezes, absolutely shook that she actually pushed him far enough to make him yell. Cecilia tries to pull the classic "you didn't ask" excuse, but Gilberto is not having it. He stares her down, calculating the audacity. He needs the cheat codes, and he needs them right now. She finally cracks and admits she got sent to the lobby before she could even unlock the true route. No spoilers, no strategy guide, nothing. Gilberto realizes they are flying blind, and the killer might already be camping their spawn point. He tries to profile the victims, digging for names or specific scars, but Cecilia's memory is useless because of literal censorship. The game devs slapped a mosaic over the crime scenes to keep the age rating low, so now they have zero clues. Gilberto nearly snaps his spine, slumping in defeat. Zero intel. Absolutely amazing. He is fighting a ghost with a blindfold on. She pivots to the treasure he gave her. That box is a ticket to the Holy Knight title, basically unlimited political clout, but Gilberto just shrugs. He is dodging power like it is a chore. In his head, he just wanted to give a nice gift to his sister, not start a political revolution. While he pours his heart out, Cecilia is casually snacking in the background, completely ruining the mood. She realizes Gil isn't cold, he is just socially malfunctioning. Back at the manor, he walled himself off from everyone because his communication skills are in the negatives. In the original game, he was the hard mode romance option. You had to grind through endless rejection dialogue just to unlock one confession scene. But if you picked the wrong path, he would vanish from the plot entirely. Cecilia refuses to let him become a background texture. She grabs him and launches Operation Riz training. She is convinced he is secretly in love with Leanne and just needs a hype man. She swears to be his ultimate wingman until he secures the bag. Meanwhile, Gilberto is staring at her with pure confusion. He has absolutely no idea what she is talking about, and honestly, he is too afraid to ask. Cecil just wants to walk across campus, but the ground starts vibrating beneath his feet. He definitely triggered the fangirl proximity alarm. The horde descends instantly. They surround him on all sides, fighting over lunch dates and coffee runs like it is a Black Friday sale. Bro literally dissociates. While the birds chirp peacefully, he realizes he is trapped in the circle of doom. He cannot be rude to his fans, so he sighs internally and decides to play the game. He flips the internal switch. Persona change activated. It is showtime. He reaches out, grabs a girl's chin, and drops the cheesiest line in history. "Don't tweet so much, my little bird." He frames it as romance. But let's be real. He is politely telling them to shut their mouths. It works perfectly. The crowd absolutely loses their minds. Gilberto is yapping about how the Honored Knight title is basically a kick-me sign, but Cecil is zoning out. He is calculating the decibel levels of the fan club screaming his name. It is deafening. 2 weeks later, the man is absolutely cooked. He slides down a tree trunk in the courtyard, his stamina bar flashing red. He finally found the 1 square inch of map geometry where the NPCs are not hunting him for sport. His life has turned into a survival horror game. The difficulty setting just ramped up 500%. He realizes he cannot make a single strategic move when the paparazzi have eyes on him 24/7. He needs a meat shield or a decoy. The strategy is simple. Force the heroine Leanne to fall in love with literally anyone else. While she is distracted by the power of love, he will swipe the treasure item right from under their noses. But there is a glitch in the matrix. Leanne is completely ignoring the main characters. She is trying to speedrun a Cecil route that the developers did not even put in the source code. He runs the simulations in his head. If he rejects her too harshly, he triggers a game-ending flag just like his sister. He decides to let the script play out until a wild distraction appears in the tall grass. A munchkin kitten spawns in the bushes. Cecil immediately drops the villain persona. His eyes widen, and he goes full cat dad mode. He analyzes the creature's hitbox and spots a limp leg. He rummages through his inventory, whips out a handkerchief, and patches the little guy up with surgical precision. The purring engine starts up. For 1 second, the world is at peace. And then, just when his guard is down, he gets caught in 4K. He hit the deck and scrambled into the bushes like a pro camper. He recognized that deep baritone voice instantly. It was the main event. the scripted encounter happening right in front of his face. Oscar Abel Prosper, the crown prince, crimson hair, eyes sharp enough to cut glass, and an aura that screamed, "I am the main character." Sil started sweating bullets. Of all the places to be, he just walked straight into a critical cutscene without saving his game. This was the first love arc, the exact moment Oscar realizes Leanne is cute and decides his actual fiancée, Cecilia, belongs in the garbage bin. In the original game, that hatred leads to a one-way trip to the dungeon, and eventually, Oscar personally signs the paper to have Cecilia deleted from the server. Cecil knew the meta: avoid the prince, survive the plot. He calculated his escape route and turned to sneak away like a ninja. But the kitten woke up and chose violence. It launched a surprise attack on his face. Cecil lost his footing and gravity took the wheel. He crashed through the foliage like a wrecking ball, taking half the ecosystem with him. Leaves flew everywhere. He looked up and the happy couple was staring right at him with zero chill. Oscar loomed over him, a dark shadow covering his eyes, pure menace radiating off him. He demanded to know if this random NPC was eavesdropping on their private moment. Cecil scrambled for a lie, his brain running at 100 miles per hour. He claimed he was just napping under the tree. Leanne didn't even suspect a thing. She just giggled and helped him up because she is an angel. Then she dropped the nuclear bomb. She invited Cecil to join their private date, completely oblivious to the tension. Oscar agreed verbally, but his eyes were screaming game over. He was mentally drilling a hole through Cecil's skull for interrupting his romance route. Cecil read the room, realized his life bar was in danger, and sprinted away. Oscar watched him go, sensing something weirdly familiar about this so-called stranger. Leanne picked up the kitten. She noticed the limp leg was already treated with professional-grade bandaging. Someone knew what they were doing. Oscar's eyes widened. He recognized that handkerchief instantly. The plot just thickened.